You know all this stuff at the top I explained to you before, where I'm looking when I say back, right, back, right, left, and front, right? If this is the front, that's the back, that's the right, that's the left. You know that the house was built before 1978, so you had a higher risk of lead and paint and other things you have to be careful. This does have original doors, so you got original hinges, you got some of the original wooden windows in there. That's where paint comes off of. So get familiar with, go to cdc.gov, read up on it, especially if you plan to get pregnant, have children, that's when it becomes more of an issue. Nobody cares about us older folks. All right, we're gonna start outside. There's a, this is a retaining wall on either side of your garage. It's leaning, I'm not so worried about that because it's common for them to lean. All the hydrostatic pressure of this dirt pushes on that, right? So there's some movement, just watch it. But around the corner, you'll see a pretty significant crack. Just have that sealed up. They did it on the other side, if you want an example of what it looks like repaired. That's to keep water from getting in from the top and the side and it becoming worse. Older house, none of the windows are flashed. That's the metal trim that goes over the top. Recommend that so water doesn't get in behind the wood frame wall and cause damage that you can't see. Typical of older homes. They didn't install it back in 1947.
Did you see damage like?
Didn't see anything, no. Nothing from the surface. I poked around the window frames and that, and there was nothing going on that worried me today. Okay. Your handrail is loose up there. It broke over near the where it connects to the house.
Which side?
That is on the right side.
Right side. Okay.
You can't miss it. There's a gap.
Okay.
The other one is connected. The deck's in good shape overall with two exceptions. The guardrail back there is loose on the back side. Want that fixed so you guys don't lean out and fall over. And they didn't attach the what's called the ledger board to the house properly. So the ledger board goes up against your house this way. They bolt it in, then your joists go on top of that. They just nailed it in. Nails aren't considered sufficient to hold heavy lateral pressure. So you and Madeline out there having a glass of wine, hanging out is probably fine. You have 10 friends over, it becomes more of a risk.
So you just take the nails out and screw some leg bolts in there or something?
Well, a contractor will know what the pattern and the requirements are. There's specific requirements for the size of the bolt, the type of material it is, and what pattern it follows with spacing. But yeah, all that is what needs to be done.
Okay, something generally like that. Change the fastener type. Okay.
So I did take this mold sample because when I got into one section of the attic, I noticed some fuzzy stuff on the sheathing. Later on in the report, we're going to mention that there's the ventilation seems inadequate, and the reason for that is they ventilated the top. They ventilated the sides at the top. The bottom has no ventilation, plus the gables are interrupted by all the building up there because they made those into rooms. So there really is no ventilation in the bottom third on both sides.
Okay. That's where you don't see the little caps up here?
Yep. Yeah,
little
well,
black
the
caps?
ridge replaces the caps.
Oh, okay.
What you don't see is anything in the soffits.
Oh, so nothing down low here for air to return and circulate?
They have a gable on one side, which is nowhere near enough, and it's up too high for it to really circulate from the bottom through like it's supposed to. Okay. And that's why you might see some signs of that stuff, that dark stuff. I'm going to get it to the lab, I think, and get it there today and have you answer by tomorrow what it is.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously there's like worse mold and not as terrible mold, but it's all mold considered like problematic enough to develop.
Well, it could not be. That's why we say biological growth. We're really careful, right? So if it were a mold, if a lab says, yeah, this is mold, they'll identify the type, and by that type, I can make a recommendation as what you do next. There's two very common ones, Cladosporium and, of course, I'm nervous trying to pronounce this in front of a doctor now.
I'm not a doctor.
I know, but
I know the camera.
I recorded, for God's sake.
You're not that kind of doctor.
Aspergillus penicillum or something like that. Those
Aspergillus?
two, both, something like that. Both of those are caused by lack of ventilation. You get too much humidity, it starts to condensate, there's nothing to blow it out. If you get to Stracchobordii, which is black, then we go, okay, let's get somebody in here. Super rare here. You don't get it very often at all. I might find it twice a year. And then I did say, oh, you know, there looked like there's been some chewing and some wood up there in the attic. I found one spot. Of course, I want to bring it to your attention because I saw it. But in the Form 17 or the notes they made, they did point out that about 30 years ago they had carpenter ants and they had it abated. It's the only place I saw it. So take it for what it's worth.
In the gazebo?
What's that?
In the gazebo? Like there are
no,
about
in the attics.
Yeah, I didn't know about the ants was in the gazebo.
Yeah, that's the deck thing we thought out there on the back. So.
Oh no, I don't know. I didn't see a gazebo. Maybe they need deck. So there is some sort of rot in that piece of wood that I saw up there. Didn't see it in the rafters, didn't see it in any of the roof structure, but if I see it, I want to tell you about it. The very cautious approach is get a pest control manager out here for a full assessment. I saw it in one spot. There's plenty of insulation up there to cover things up. I just said ventilation's inadequate. The door from the house to the garage, or vice versa, is not fire rated. It should be a fire rated door, so you have 20 minutes of burn time between the garage and the house. It's a recommended upgrade by the state of Washington.
Okay.
And also the drywall that they put in both the ceiling and the wall, they never taped it and mudded it, which means those are gaps that interrupt the fire barrier between the living space above and the house space on the other side of the garage.
Sophie saw that.
Yep.
So that. Electrical panel looked fine with the exception of one double tap. They put 2 wires on one circuit breaker. That's considered a fire hazard. Should be repaired by an electrician.
What do you do? Just add a circuit?
They'll come in and put a new circuit in, yeah, which is what they should have done in the first place. They're using an extension cord as permanent wiring to run the garage door opener, also considered unsafe. Should be a dedicated outlet that runs to and plugs into. And in the basement, they kind of ran a wire to a bench and stapled an outlet to a bench, and that's, again, unprotected wire, unsafe installation. We want that corrected. The light bulb's exposed in the fixture in the back, which isn't the big deal. It's loose, it's shaking all over the place, which means the wiring behind there's probably loose too. You want to get that repaired so we know it's safe. Old house, so you don't have ground fault circuit interrupters. Did we go over those last time? The 2-button guys near water. So they're electrical outlets. You'll see them in your bathroom, you'll see them in your kitchen. If you guys in water and electricity meet, they pop, right? So they ground fault and they pop so you don't get shocked. If you were to build this house today, they'd have them in the garage, the basement, the garage, the basement, and the second floor bathroom don't have them. But again, this house isn't held to current safety standards. I'm just letting you know because Washington says too. It's not illegal to buy the place or sell it.
This is like the reset button?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like what's on your blow dryer. That little thing.
Yep. I can't tell you how old the furnace is. Just know it's a really old furnace. It's running fine today, and like I said, they're oil furnaces. You can repair them, different than like a gas forced air furnace. But it's an old guy. It's got to go back to probably 60s, 70s, ish. I can't even find the company, so I don't know when they went out of biz. Baseboard heaters upstairs are turned off at the breaker, but they put in vents. So you have heat going up there. That's probably why they're not using those. You might flip them on and they might work. I don't know. I'm not allowed to hit those switches. But just know those don't do anything. Right? But they did run heat from the furnace up there.
All right. So there's no reason to not just remove those.
No, and the heat is getting to the room. So when I ran it, I checked. It's making it up there. There's signs of an underground oil tank at some point, but Crystal already closed the loop on that. They gave a certificate of decommission, so that's I'm obligated to put in the report, but it's not really an issue. Some of your supply piping is galvanized, and we'll talk about that. I think you guys talked about it, and we may have talked about it before, but older galvanized pipe deteriorates from the inside out. It's at higher risk of leaks and just really bad water pressure. Water pressure today from the main is good, and you've got a nice new copper main running to the house.
Copper main to the house. That's why the pressure's so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the galvanized pipe is inside. So
inside.
That's the big one. If you're going to pick galvanized to have anywhere, inside the house, not in the supply pipe. It cost my daughter $4,500.
Okay.
Because it broke out.
Yeah.
It broke like in between the street and the house, right underneath the sidewalk.
Okay, so that's done. We just need to repipe the interior.
Yeah, ideally in a perfect world, you repipe the interior.
Was it all pipe inside?
No, it's probably about 50% plastic.
Oh, okay. So they've done some.
They've done some, yeah.
Okay, so that's way lower on the estimate.
Yeah. Cool.
Good.
There's a leak from the downstairs toilet right above the water heater. When that flushes, it drips on there. Okay. Want to get that fixed?
Oh no, raw sewage?
That's what comes out of there, yeah.
That's disgusting.
It's very drippy, just like a little bit, but not to heal, so.
Ugh. All right.
The water heater is a 2008, so against an average service life of 14 years for an electric heater, it's getting near the end of its service life, working fine today. And they put a little, I'm going to go well scientific and say doohickey on the bottom of the spigot for your utility tub, which brought it underneath the top line. So when you have a faucet that extends underneath the sink, it can fill up. You could have wash machine detergent, turpentine, whatever in there. That can suck it right back into your drinking water. So there's supposed to be at least like a 2-inch gap between where the bottom of the faucet ends and the top of the sink. And because they put that thing on there, it would be actually submerged in whatever gunk. So just get that thing off there. Okay. Toilet in the second floor bathroom. Upstairs one is loose. Want to get that repaired. The dining room and that one living room window are painted shut. The windows in the bedrooms are older too. They actually work and fairly well. You know, not great. But they don't have the, I didn't put in the report because they're working, but they don't have the old weights and ropes in them anymore. So they're functional. They're just older. Yeah, none of them are going to be real energy efficient, of course.
Okay, I was about to ask, do you look at like the actual like glass?
What's that?
Do you look at the actual glass?
Yeah, and it's just single pane glass. Yeah, yeah. So those will be colder. Our first house was built in 1990. We had it, and I glazed them and I did everything they could. Now this again is Michigan, but in the winters it was brutal. Here it won't be so bad because we don't really have that severe of a winter.
First inefficient.
Yeah, you'll spend a lot more money on running your furnace.
Yep.
And the chimney, I just said due to its age and for safety reasons, have it checked out before you use it. There's gaps in the fire brick inside. The flue looks pretty funky. The damper doesn't fully operate. So if you were planning on using it for, and on the outside I point out it bends a little, it's okay. Just keep an eye on it. Yeah, as it gets, because it's venting a oil furnace, and sometimes they can cause that to shift. So just keep an eye on it. It's fine today. When I see them like this, you know, like, yeah, definitely get somebody on that. But I would, if you're going to use it, have a mason come out and just evaluate and clean the whole thing. We've done it every time we bought a house with a chimney. Every single time we find anything from a bird nest in there to just a bunch of gunk from flying in, because you can't see that middle third, no matter where you're standing. They just said all that. And the last thing on your summary is the dishwasher was installed without an air gap. Usually you'll see on the counter or on an outside wall, on the counter you see like a little metal helmet looking thing. It's kind of kind of rectangular, rounded top. That's an air gap that helps the water circulate when the dishwasher's running. If you don't have it, it can wash back into your drinking water, especially on an older house because we don't have backflow valves on these. There's not one outside, there's not one inside, so just assume there isn't one. Ideal world, you'd have one installed. That's your summary. The rest is really good information, where things shut off, where things are located, what I did step by step, the things you got in your last report, basically. Okay. I swear to God, I didn't break anything this time.
Oh.
I didn't break anything last time.
You did anything.
I know. And I was like, I got that guy's card. Everything's broken. I'm selling him out.
The guy before us?
Yeah, no, he was actually a really nice kid.
Yeah.
Everything else is good information. I want you guys to read it, digest it. If you have questions, of course, reach out. We're going to get this to the lab now. It's just Georgetown, so it won't be much of a drive. And I'll get you the galvanized pipe and the knob and tube info in a couple of seconds. Cool. Any questions right now? I know you can't ask me any. Not you, but
Madeline.
Oh. I mean, generally speaking, it sounds like it's in like quite good shape.
For the age of the house, it's a short report.
Yeah.
You know, meaning that it wasn't death by 1,000 paper cuts of this, that, and the other thing. Obviously, you can just look at it and see they've maintained it well. It's painted, it's caulked. Yeah. Roof's in relatively good shape. You'll see that at the bottom. I just say it's got some wear, but it's actually looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing really super scary as far as I could find.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me out again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Madeline.